Scrambles, pumpkins, and sketches. Okay? Okay? We're going to start doing this one this way. It's really, I love how he always tells a story. He kind of was writing about in 49, the Harley bike. Yeah. It's level stuff. We're talking Scrambles, Ibsen. Anyway. No Shakespeare, but who is? They did a really great job. Discovering 6 days. The show starts in about half a minute. I would like that for dinner. No, the next time try this segment is it's live. Show starts in a couple of seconds. All right, I'll talk to you after.
We're live.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Let's get down to the starting line, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what you're going to see on tonight's show. In the next time, try this segment. I've got something live for you tonight. We've got a couple of tips. I've got two of them, actually. I think you're going to like it. In the Moto Showcase, a really interesting video that I shot this past weekend over at Wheelhouse Garage. It's coming just a couple of minutes. And here's the problem. We've got some paint questions and a couple of other things we'll go over with you. What's it worth? A 1990 Kawasaki KX250. I think you're going to be surprised with this. We've got all that and a whole lot more coming up on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Labate, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you, Jordan, Chelsea, and Susie, for helping me put the show together tonight, and thank you, the viewers at home, who tune in to watch the show. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. We will have a random share giveaway winner tonight. The lucky winner will get this beautiful sticker sheet, compliments of Vintco. Be sure, if you are on YouTube, to comment Motion Pro. And don't forget, keep sharing the show on Facebook as well. Our YouTube channel is going really, really well. All of our shows are on there. All of our interviews are on there, but we could always use some more subscriptions. So get over to YouTube and please subscribe. When you do, you'll get a little alert just like this. It tells you when we're live on the air. And you could be watching the show for your big screen TV. That's the way the pros do it. That's the way the experts do it. Sit back on your couch. You can comment from your phone while you watch Vintage Motocross Q&A in HD. Don't forget to keep sending in your Moto Showcase bikes. If you have some, we could always use more. If you got bikes that you want us to feature on the show in that segment. You could also send us any kind of an email that you want to see something new on the show, you want to see a new segment, whatever it may be. Your questions and comments are always welcome. And of course, the questions that we receive every week for the Here's the Problem segment, a huge part of the show that I enjoy doing. So keep them coming in. We really, really appreciate that. As always, I want to thank our sponsors, Motion Pro, Vintco, Racer X, Full Circle Racing, Preston Petty Products, Northwest Mako CZ, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, and Bill's Pipes. Thank you, Bill's Pipes, for coming on board with us. In the next time, try this segment tonight, which is brought to you by Vintco. I've got a couple of little things here I want to share with you. One is a wire twist pliers. Are you familiar with these wire twist pliers? Kind of looks like a regular plier, but when you kind of squeeze it and you move the sleeve down, it locks up. You clamp it onto a piece of wire, and it's good to twist that wire on the bike to hold on some parts. I'll show you exactly what I mean, actually, before I get too far ahead of myself. On your bike, you may have things like this, where you would normally use a cotter pin, and you still should use a cotter pin if you have one handy. But if you want to safety wire some parts, or you're having an issue with some nuts coming loose somewhere along the line, you can cut a piece of wire like this, put it through that hole, and you bend it around a little bit, just like that. Then you're going to take these wire twist pliers. You're going to grab that piece of wire. This is why I hate doing things live, really, sometimes. But you're going to grab it just like that. You're going to pull that sleeve down, and it's going to lock right on there. At the back of this wire twist plier, you're going to go just like this. And it's going to neatly twist that wire right onto the part that you don't want to lose. Give it a little squeeze, comes loose, and you can cut off the excess wire, just like that. You would be surprised how often you're going to use this once you have a pair, if you don't have a pair already. If you do, you know what I'm talking about, wire twist pliers. The other tip I want to give you tonight concerns you guys who are doing a little more advanced work, maybe splitting some engine cases like this. Now, this is where your countershaft sprocket would come out. This is the countershaft with your transmission gears that are on it. It would look very similar to that sticking out of your bike, and that's where your countershaft sprocket would go. Now, while you were taking this apart, it would probably be sitting much like this on your bench. Now, here's what I like to do. When you take that gear cluster out, you want to look very, very closely down into the cases. You want to make sure that this little spacer right here doesn't either get left in the cases or it gets stuck through oil. Oil will make it, of course, stick right onto the gear. And then when you go to clean the part or you're moving it around your shop, you're going to wind up losing that little spacer. What I like to do is, as soon as I take it out, look down in the case on top of that bearing, see if that little spacer is there. If it's not, it's more than likely attached right to this gear. Immediately, take a little zip tie just like this. Wrap it around that shaft, put it on there as tightly as possible so the gears don't fall out of order, which you would know if they were out of order or not, but you don't lose that little spacer that's on either end of your transmission gears just like that. And that's what I would do. If I were taking apart the transmission on a bike, use those little zip ties. They come in real handy. And you know what else this wire plier is good for too? Things like this. For gas lines, if you don't want one to come off of your gas cap of your vintage bike or anywhere on your bike, maybe on the petcock where you have your fuel line connected there too. That little wire twist plier is a great way to keep stuff like that on there. So next time, try this. And that segment is, of course, brought to you by Vintco. Keep the ride going. I'm Joe Abadi. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A.
And I'm Bill Wheeler. We're at Wheelhouse Garage, and this is today's Moto Showcase.
Tell us about this bike, Bill.
This is a 1957 Triumph pre-unit TR6. It's a 650 twin, set up for motocross, racing. Heck, you could even take it to the desert and smash around.
Now, you call it a pre-unit. Why do they call this bike a pre-unit?
So in the 50s, and pretty much every bike before that, the motor and the transmission were separate. And they ran that, all the British manufacturers up until the early 60s. They were separate.
Now that tank is big and it looks heavy.
Yeah, that's a big steel tank right there. But yeah, that's a correct tank for this setup. You want to be able to, if you're in the desert, you want to be able to make it to the finish line. 500 cc? 650 twin. 650 twin, 4 or 5 speed? Yeah, it's a 4-speed. 4-speed. Yep. And you've ridden this bike, you've raced it? I haven't raced it, I've ridden it. It is fast, and it's very cool. It's part of why I wanted to grab this one, is I never really had the opportunity to play around on a
Is it for sale?
Unit. It is. There's a sale pending. Okay. Yeah. That's great. What are these things trading for right about now? Right now, these will go, pre-units are pretty desirable right now. There's a niche of people that want it in this form, ready to race. But 6,000 to 8,500 is really the range. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, that's it for today's Moto Showcase bike from the Wheelhouse Garage. Bill Wheeler, thanks once again for taking the time to talk to us. My pleasure, Joe. And how can people find you? On my website, wheelhousegarage.co, or I'm on Instagram at wheelhouse_garage.
Bill Wheeler. Thanks again, Bill.
Thank you.
The Motor Showcase is, of course, brought to you by Preston Petty Products. Preston Petty has a great special coming up this week. It's got 2 fenders, front and a rear mutter, and 3 plates. And they are, I think they're $122.95. $122.95. That's on their bundle special package. Thank you, Paul Standard and Preston Petty Products. And don't forget, Preston Petty Products is still looking for dealers. They want dealers, not distributors. So if you've got a retail outlet, you can get a hold of Paul Standard. You can find him online at PrestonPettyProducts.com or just about anywhere on Instagram. And if you want to become a dealer, you can do that. Get a hold of Paul Standard. Thank you, Paul and Patty Standard. And here's the problem segment tonight. We take a look at some of the questions that you have sent in over the past week. What do we got up first? Jordan. Jeff Kokoski. Boy, you're becoming a staple on the show, Jeff. I like the stuff he sends in. Joe, I didn't even know about high heat prime last week until I watched the show. I'm painting a pipe for YZ250. The paint isn't bad. Should I still use a high heat prime anyway? I would recommend it, Jeff. Take that pipe down, sand it nice and smooth, and still put a good coat of the high heat prime on there. I prefer the VHT, the high heat prime, and their paint. I use it on that pipe right there, and you can see the results. I would recommend that you use it. And you know, on your Yamahas, Hondas, Japanese, I think most bikes during the 70s, there's no prime underneath the paint. That's why the paint didn't last very, very long and it wore right through. Or if it wore right through, the metal was bare, and well, that's a story for another day. But anyway, there was no prime under these bikes when they were produced originally, but it's a good way to preserve the metal and get a much nicer finish when you do repaint them now. So yeah, high heat prime on the paint. I would recommend it, Jeff. Thanks for the question. Can't wait to hear your question next week. Glenn Lewis, I'm restoring a Taco Persang M100. Can you point me in the right direction when it comes to the red color? I can. And it's, you're not going to believe this. Well, actually you will. During that same era, when that bike came out, Ford was using the same paint, the same color. It came on a 1968 and a 1969 Ford Mustang. So when you go to match the color, or if you don't have a way to match the color from a previous part, or you don't have any code, you can go down to your auto body supply shop and tell them that you're looking to match the red that came on a 1968 or a 1969 Ford Mustang. And that'll be the same color red. That's on your Persang M100. You know, I ran across a product the other day. I was wondering if any of the viewers have ever tried it. I'm going to order some, and maybe we could do a little test on it here. I have a picture of it. Jordan, what is this? Oh, Superzilla. Superzilla, the Green Wonder product. Now, I heard somebody raving about this stuff the other day. It is a penetrant, and we were talking about that last week using Marvel Mystery Oil or a couple of other things that were going on with, I think we were talking about seized spokes last week. But while I was doing that and while I was doing a little research, I ran across this product called Superzilla. And the thing that really intrigued me about it when I watched the video on it on YouTube, I think it was that they showed it actually crawling up a bolt, a rusty bolt. So not only was it useful when you spray it down into whatever might be seized up and you're trying to free, but it seems that it will follow the way of the thread too. I was wondering if anybody has ever tried this stuff. I'm going to get some and let you know what I think about it. If you have, please comment. Let me know if you've ever tried it. Superzilla.
Hi, I'm Warren Reed. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jeff with Motion Pro, here to introduce you to the Pro Funnel today. Now the Pro Funnel is a very versatile funnel that makes maintenance tasks on your motorcycle easier, cleaner, and more efficient. Now as an overview, the Pro Funnel has a 1 liter capacity with clear graduation marks listed in ounces, cc's, as well as all the common premix ratios used for two-strokes in the power sports industry. Now diving into the key features of the Pro Funnel, first you have this integrated shutoff valve, which allows you to shut off or meter out the flow of fluid. This ball joint and extended spout allows you to get into tight areas. A powerful magnetic strip is convenient for storage on your toolbox or workbench. And this removable lid keeps dirt and debris out of the funnel. The Pro Funnel has a retail price of $32.99 and can be found at your preferred dealer nationwide, so go get yours today.
In the What's It Worth segment tonight, we take a look at a 1990 Kawasaki KX250 that recently sold in Northern California. And this is, of course, the part of the show where I encourage you to put in what you think this bike recently sold for. As I mentioned, it was sold in Northern California. It was sold on October 19th. I'll read the description. Jordan will go through the slides. You take a guess on what you think this bike recently sold for. Up for auction, 1990 KX250. It has a new piston, rings, a new carburetor, new seat cover, new tires, and new cables. Everything works on the bike as it should. It starts easily, stops on a dime. It runs very strong and has a lot of power. I also have the title to the bike, and it is registered. It does have a green sticker, which is kind of important in California. The buyer is responsible for shipping. I'll do anything I can to help. A great running bike. Looks like it could use a little detailing, but it runs perfectly. It had new piston, rings, new carburetor. What do you think this 1990 KX250 sold for? $2,000, $2,300? This bike sold for an incredibly low $1,600, $1,600. And this is the market that is absolutely slipping away from a lot of people who want to get into the older bike scene, not necessarily the vintage, but the Evo scene. There's a lot of great deals out there for just $1,600. Think about the price of a new bike. Think about what some of the vintage bikes are trading for. Those late 80s, early 90s bikes are sleepers right now. They're great to ride. Parts are available, and they're not selling for a whole bunch of money. $1,600, Northern California, 1990 KX250. Full Circle Racing still has a great special going on. They will powder coat your hubs for just $50. $20 more if you want the brake plate done. They'll do it in satin black or in gloss black. And Full Circle Racing, of course, your one-stop shop for all your wheels for your vintage bike and your modern bike, both street and off-road. Get a hold of Tom McAllister today at Full Circle Racing. Have you ever heard of? This is a segment of the show where I try and bring in a bike that I don't think you ever heard of, and I can guarantee you've never heard of this one. I never heard of it either. Have you ever heard of a Rixson? A Rixson? I don't think you have. In fact, most racers outside of Sweden have never heard of a Rixson, and I should mention that I found this article in Motocross Action from August of 2021. Anyway, most people outside of Switzerland, or Sweden rather, have never heard of a Rixson. It was a 360. The Rixson built engine was available in 250 and 360 cc's. It was a two-stroke based on, believe it or not, a 175 cc Husqvarna engine, which of course was readily available in Sweden at that time. The Rixson name came from a shortened version of the owner, whose name was Rickardsson. Stig Rickardsson was one of Sweden's most best riders during the 50s and early 60s. The FIM held a European 250 championship at that time, and he really did great as a racer. He was always a contender in the 250 European championship. Anyway, Stig Rickardsson, he had an idea to take this 175cc engine, but he wanted to make his own cylinders, which he did for the 360 and the 250. A problem he was having was with compression. He raised the compression so much he was having overheating problems, and he decided that he was going to cool the fuel before it actually got into the carburetor. And he did this with a 1 liter bottle, some kind of contraption underneath the seat of this bike, where he would cool the fuel using methanol. He cooled the fuel using methanol, then got it mixed in there. He was able to get a higher compression, and the bike ran really good after he discovered that he should be using a Mahle piston and not a 4-stroke piston. His engines were 360cc. They were actually 352 cc's at the time. He began building them in 1962, and only 12 bikes were built. Arne Kring, very famous Swedish rider, he rode a Rickardsson for a couple of seasons, 64 through 67, before getting a Husky ride. Stig Rickardsson not only made the frame, but he also made the suspension as well. Very, very interesting bike. Stig Rickardsson is alive and well. He's 83 years old in Sweden. And from what I understand, it was Lars Larson who translated this article for Motocross Action. So next time somebody asks you if you ever heard of a Rickardsson, you could say, yeah, I saw it on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Sunrise Vapor Blasting. I understand he's doing really, really well down there from Modesto. Thank you, the viewers who've been sending him some parts to be vapor blasted. And whether it's for a plane, a boat, a car, or a motorcycle, he will get those parts just as clean as could be, put them in that tank, and they'll come back better than new. I can speak about this firsthand because I've had a lot of carburetors and other aluminum parts that were done by Mark Farriester at Sunrise Vapor Blasting, and I've been very, very happy with what he's done for us so far. And his prices are reasonable. His turnaround time is just a couple of days. So whatever you might have, aluminum, magnesium, titanium, whatever it might be. Get a hold of Mark Ferriester at Sunrise Vapor Blasting. Get him your part. He'll get it back to you in no time with an absolutely incredible finish on it. Thank you, Mark Ferriester and Sunrise Vapor Blasting. We're going to take a commercial break. When we do, we are going to come back with tonight's winner of the Random Share giveaway. We'll be right back after these words.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
Our Random Share giveaway winner tonight is Lance Coleman. Lance Coleman, if you're still watching the show, get a hold of me. Get me your mailing address. I will send you a beautiful sticker sheet like this, compliments of Vinco. Keep the ride going. Lance Coleman, you are tonight's Random Share giveaway winner. Lance Coleman. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X Magazine, available on your newsstand now and online as well. Be sure to see our ad in the back of Racer X. 1956, a guy was born down in San Diego, California. His name was Marty Moats, and if Marty Moats were alive today, he would be 65 years old on December 10th, just a couple days away. But anyway, Marty Moats, he was best known for the first American to ever win the Carlsbad Grand Prix of Motocross. He did that in June of 1980 when he stunned the entire world by going 1-1 on national television. He was also one of the co-founders of the Carlsbad company No Fear, a brand that was a giant in the action sports world in the late 1990s and the 2000s. It was a great victory for Marty Moats, and the Carlsbad win was fitting because it was kind of his hometown track right in his backyard, right down there in San Diego. On December 7th, unfortunately, in 2006, Marty took his own life. Marty Moats, we remember you well. 1972, Lackey on the Cow. This is an interesting story that Kawasaki took some liberties with when taking out an ad in Cycle News. Kawasaki ran its advertisement for what turned out to be their first major motocross win. Brad Lackey was picked to ride the new Kawasaki prototype MXer in what was new in a series, the AMA 500cc National Championship. The series was an 11-race series, and the Trans Am series followed that. When the points were all added up between the two series, Brad Lackey had more than double the points of the series runner-up, Gary Jones, who was riding for Yamaha at the time. Gary Jones, of course, did win the 250cc championship, and he won the 250cc Inter-Am that year as well. So Lackey, while he didn't actually win the Trans Am, and he didn't exactly win the national championship that year, he did have more points than anybody else, and Kawasaki thought it was a good idea to say that he was a Grand National Champion in 1972, and that's the way it read in Cycle News that week. 1989, the MX Kid. This is a nice little story, too, on December 8th, which is today, exactly. On the first night of the 1989 Geneva Supercross in Switzerland, Team Honda's Mike Kudrowski took the win at the Palexpo Arena. It was called the Lucky Strike Supercross. The rookie Honda factory rider who had just won the 1989 125cc National Championship took advantage of falls by Kawasaki's Jeff Ward and Honda teammate Larry Ward to take the win. Second on that night was Suzuki's Guy Cooper. In third place was Ricky Johnson. And I'm wondering if this was maybe one of the only times a rookie went out at a Supercross in 125 and took a race win. I don't know. I have to look that up. Anyway, Mike Kudrowski. And you know what? While I am thinking about it, actually, no, I'm not thinking about anything. Jordan, what do we got coming up next? Okay, we have announcements. And this segment is, of course, sponsored by Bill's Pipes. Bill Pipes is a new sponsor of the show. You could catch them online at info@billspipes.com. Now, I've looked up billspipes.com. What you want to do to contact him about a pipe that is possibly being made for your bike is to just email them at info@billspipes.com. There will be some more information on their products that they are producing on some future shows. I want to thank Randy Scott and, of course, Bill from Bill's Pipes for becoming a sponsor. And we're going to be showcasing some of the things that they're doing here on the show. And if you want to know more about Bill's Pipes and how they perform and why they perform so well, go over to Vintage Motocross Radio and listen to my interview with Bill. It's a great interview. He talks about cone pipes, stamped pipes, and how he got his start in building pipes. It's a great little interview with Bill from Bill's Pipes. Thanks for being a sponsor. And if you want to listen to some other interviews, go to Vintage Motocross Radio. You can listen to all of our shows, all 50 interviews. There's even more than 50 interviews. And you can listen to them all on Spotify, Cashbox, Breaker. You can listen to them on Facebook and YouTube as well. But you can listen to them wherever you are in a podcast. The Scrambles final round is this weekend. Tammy Greenhill putting on a great event this Wednesday, entries close this Wednesday, December 8th. So that's coming up this weekend. Kids ride free, compliments of Rod Lake. This is down there at Glen Helen on the truck track. Old School Scrambles Racing Group. Great job you always do down there. Tammy Greenhill. Oh, I'm looking forward to going back east. I'm looking forward to seeing my friends out at the York Swap Meet on Sunday, January 23rd. That happens between 8 a.m. and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the night before the Potomac Vintage Riders have their banquet. And that's happening there at a hotel. And the York Swap Meet is the next day. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. I will be there. I'll have a few words to say at the banquet, and I will be one of the judges in the bike show on Sunday at the York Swap Meet. I'm really looking forward to getting back there. And thank you, Bill Nazelrod, and everybody who helps put that show together. Tom Grimmel, all the guys. The Finish Line is brought to you by Northwest Mako CZ. The Northwest Mako CZ special this week is wheel bearings for your Mako. All your Makos, front and rear. Wheel bearings just starting at $6 and going up to only $9. Get a hold of Alan Brown. Excuse me. Get a hold of Alan Brown. Get yourself some new wheel bearings for your Mako. Just $6 to $9. Vintage Motocross Q&A. T-shirts and hoodies are still available in gray and white, just $19.99 for the T-shirt, a couple of bucks more for the hoodie. You can go online, follow the link in the show description. You'll get one delivered right to your house in time for Christmas if you act now. And while we're talking about shirts, Jordan, I want to thank my buddy Gordon McCaffer. Gordon McCaffer sent me this nice shirt last week. McCaffer Welding. If you need any welding done in the greater Syracuse area, get a hold of Gordon McCaffer. He is on Facebook, and he also builds some amazing bike stands. I've got one over 20 years. Gordon built that for me a long time ago. He's built a lot of stands for Terry Good, and he's a great welder. He's DOT certified. He teaches at BOCES. He's a great guy. Gordon McCaffer, thank you for the T-shirts and the spare parts that you sent me, the little plugs and grips and stuff that I need for my McCaffer work stands. Thanks, Gordon. I want to say thanks to all of our viewers, too. That wraps it up for us tonight at Vintage Motocross Q&A. We will be back next week with a new and exciting episode. Thank you, Jordan, Chelsea, everyone at home. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. And I've got some things going out to a couple of different people. Last week's random share giveaway winner, Lance Coleman and Brent Williams. Brent Williams, I got a special box coming to you for being a random share giveaway winner a couple of weeks ago and for sharing the show as much as you do. Thanks, everybody. Gino! Come on, Gino! Okay, good job, Gino. What about you, Rocco? You want to be on tonight? Huh? Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching. No? Okay. I guess not. Good.